And we're back. Ladies and gents, welcome to another edition of Kayfabe Corner. I'm your host, JPO, Jordan Pierce Owens, as I'm joined by a man involved in the world of professional wrestling, usually here in the state of Florida. Today, very excited to have my guest, Julian Kelevra. Julian, how you doing, buddy?
Good, buddy. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, first question, especially nowadays, it's literally, how are you doing here? We're in funky times right now. It's October. When's the last time you stepped foot in the ring? Have you been able to hit anything? How are you doing physically and emotionally? How are you?
Well, physically, I'm perfectly fine. No complaints whatsoever. Keeping up with training, but emotionally, a little distraught. Haven't been able to do much of wrestling unless I've gotten like a couple calls for like out of state bookings. But of course, with work being the way it is due to COVID, there's not much money in the bank, so of course travel is kind of out of the question, and not everybody's not willing to pay your travel costs, and it makes it difficult, honestly. So psychologically, I'm going crazy. I need to be in a ring soon.
Nah, man, I definitely hear that, man. It sucks. 2020 killed a lot of plans for everyone here. Well, let's try to rewind, go back to maybe happier times, if you will. Where does pro wrestling first begin with you, just in general? Are you a fan? Where do you first come into contact?
When did I first come into contact with wrestling
In
altogether?
general, yeah.
Man, I'd have to have been about like 4 years old, and it comes from a story of my dad saying that he went to a gym one time with his buddies, and he ended up running into Hulk Hogan back in the day, in Miami, and it was when WWE was in town at the time, and he also ended up meeting a couple of other superstars that he didn't really know, and it sparked an interest because I'm like, oh, who was this guy that my dad's talking about? I've never heard of him, never seen him before, so I flip on the TV and I see just highlights of Hulk Hogan, body slamming Andre the Giant and, great WrestleMania matches. And I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. I have to get into this like as soon as possible. So the rest of my childhood was just overtaken with just like watching wrestling and just being a huge mark. And, not a lot of guys like to admit this, but eventually translated into me doing some backyard wrestling, in my youth. And from there, it just I had an opportunity one WrestleMania weekend. Rusty Brooks had put out a commercial for training for the School of Hard Knocks, and first opportunity I got, I told my dad, "Hey, look, this is what I want to do. I want to wrestle. I want to make people happy, and like how they've made me happy." And started training when I was about 14 years old, and my first match was about 16, 17, and never stopped since.
Well, you
So
just have.
I can honestly say I've had some time in the ring, some good tenure.
Well, you took away some of my future questions. I love it though. Going back real quick, you mentioned Hogan. Who else were you really drawn to? Like, who are some of your favorites that really captured your imagination and that you were drawn to?
Well, I've said this time and time again, and everybody thinks like, oh man, like that. What a weird person to like really love. And Shane Helms. Shane Helms is one of my all-time favorites. The whole like when I first started wrestling, one of my first gimmicks was being a comic book nerd who ends up like hulking out mid-match and popping open a fucking Superman shirt, and the whole superhero aesthetic and gimmick just really drew me in because I'm also a very huge comic book fan. So that was one of my main inspirations. And of course, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, those were all great performers. But like undercard guys that really drew me in and like had me latched on and I followed their whole career was Shane Helms as a Hurricane. It was fantastic for me.
Well, guess what, Julian? Live on this call, ladies and gentlemen, it's Shane Helms. Now, I wish that would have been a nice
If
surprise.
only
Uh,
I
I'll try
only
to.
met him once too. Like that's the saddest part. And I wrestled with like one of my best buddies, Aaron Agony, longtime tag team partner of mine. He's like really good friends with Shane Helms. And I'm like, bro, like I wish I had the kind of relationship that you have with him. Cause but like honestly, I think I'd just mark out most of the time. So it would be kind of pointless try and talk to Shane Helms.
I may or may not have his autograph. I won't. I won't admit to it, but maybe. Uh,
I think I'm gonna buy it off you, bro. Honestly, Jesus.
uh, I'll reiterate too. For how old were you? 14, 16 when you said you started training with Rusty?
Uh, when I started training with Rusty, I was about 14 years old.
Did he know
Very,
that?
very, very. Yeah, he knew. He knew. He gave me a lot of gripe because he's like, oh, you're just a little shit, a whippersnapper. You shouldn't really be in the ring. But like, honestly, I would drag my dad with me to like literally every training session. And I'm like, bro, he's giving me okay. Like, fuck me up. Like, make sure I do this correctly because I want to be in this. This is my future. I don't care what you say. And Rusty was reluctant, but like honestly, I think in the end he was happy. I hope so with me.
What was your first match? Do you remember? And how old are you by the time you have a match?
My first match was against Jordan Rayner back in ICW when he was the ICW champ. It was a debut squash match. I was about 16 years old, debuting as Danny Disaster, and it went just about as good as you would think. Honestly, I performed well. I did everything I was told perfectly, and it got my foot in the door. And honestly, I was happy with it. I got a little bit of a busted lip from it, but it was fine.
Over or under 3 minutes? How long was the match?
I think it was actually over 3 minutes. It was about like 4 to 5. So that wasn't bad at all.
Not bad. I'm saying it's not a squash. Over three, I think it's less than a squash.
It was
more.
I got a couple, like I got a nice little insecurity in. That's about it. I think, it showed that I had heart and I can take a beating, which is what you have to show when you're debuting for a company, that you can take the punches and keep rolling with it and come back the next time around for more.
You mentioned Rusty Brooks. Anyone else you credit to that really has helped train you or at least kind of giving you guidance along the way?
Oh man, Michael Mannix was a huge, like he's one of the older guys, one of the veterans in ICW that he saw some potential in me. He's like, kid, like you're a little rough around the edges, but you have the talent. You can like spark interest in a crowd, and honestly, I like that. So when I broke out into like tag team wrestling with my old partner, Andrew D. Dawson, part as the Youth in Revolt, I had a lot of matches with him and Max Stardom. Max Stardom, Michael Mannix, they really, shaped me into one of the workers, like into the working condition that I have today. Like they were, honestly, they were nonstop and relentless. And I think I still have the indent of Michael Mannix's U chops on my chest, but it was always a fun match. Very comical.
Well, speaking of comical, I was going to bring you back to that too. Any comic book suggestions? Like, what's a good series? What's a good read?
Oh man, honestly, anything Spider-Man for me. Anything Spider-Man for me. They're all great. I've also been reading this Image comic called The Haunt. Oh, fantastic read. It's a little different, not too much. It's like along the lines of Ghost Rider, but it's interesting in its own way.
Are you a Toby, Andrew, or Tom Spider-Man guy?
Definitely a Tom guy. Tom is the best Spider-Man. Everybody, I don't know what it is. Like, I think it's the nostalgia that everybody's on Toby for. And I like Toby because at the time he was the only thing I had, so that's why I liked him. But like, honestly, in comparison to Toby and Andrew, I think Andrew's even better. But of course, Tom is like on a pedestal. You can't get near Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It's fantastic. I love what he's done with the character.
Well, now this is awkward because, ladies and gentlemen, Toby Maguire. No, no, I agree with you. I think when all is all said and done, I think we're going to really champion Holland. I think people are seeing it now. Got to go back to Danny Disaster first of all. I always love previous names and gimmicks. Talk to me about Danny Disaster. Where does that come from?
Well, okay, so back in the backyard days, I was known by one singular name, which was Disaster, because when I was done, we were like a hardcore backyard wrestling federation. So when I was done, there was always a disaster left behind. You can tell a disaster rolled through. So that was my name. And when I got into pro wrestling, I wanted to still incorporate some of like where I came from to never forget. I even still have like my old backyard wrestling logo tatted on my back. And so I just decided, I need to get a little bit more professional sounding with that. Maybe I should get Disaster first name. My actual name is Darian, so I wanted something that also started with a D. And I'm like, Danny's kind of normal. All right, let me go with that. So I went from Danny Disaster. And yeah, he was just a punk kid trying to step in the ring and, fulfill his dream. And then from then on, my second gimmick was Daniel Modem. Kept the Daniel, dropped the Disaster, and wanted it to be, something geeky, something nerdy. And, well, what's geeky and nerdy? Computers. What do you use on a computer? A modem. All right, Daniel Modem.
Want to know a dirty little secret? I did not know you were Daniel Modem. I know I've seen Daniel Modem wrestle. I don't think I've ever pieced that together.
No, yeah. That's good. That means that like I lived the gimmick and I was able to change even my facial structure for people, and they thought I was somebody completely different.
Anything
That makes me happy, man.
Anything before Julian or after Modem?
No. After Modem, I decided to go with who I was on the inside. More of a punk rock kind of hardcore kind of dude, and then I just came up with the name Julian Kelevra because, Kelevra was one of my favorite characters of all time. Slevin Kelevra from Lucky Number Slevin. I don't know if you've seen the movie or if you're aware of the movie.
Yeah,
fantastic. And then I just needed something to roll with the Kelevra moniker, and I'm like, Daniel Kelevra doesn't really work. Julian works. It rolls right off the tongue. And yeah, I stuck with that.
Was that the character played by Josh Hartnett? Is that who it is?
Yeah. Lucky Number Slevin Kelevra. I think I'm luckier. That's all I'm going to say.
I won't argue there. You said you had your old logo tattooed on you?
From the backyard days, yeah.
Can we see it?
My back.
Can you get to it? Now I'm curious. You piqued my interest.
Let's see if we can.
This is a first on the show here, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit to the left.
Hold on. We'll get it.
Oh, there we go. Okay. What exactly am I looking at?
It's about like an open wound with a split vein just pulling out. And then it has the letters, which is hardcore, HRA, which stands for Hardcore Wrestling Asylum. Yeah, we tried to be cute with it back in the day. We were just kids. We're trying to be different.
Any chance of it being brought back?
Not that I'm aware of. Fun fact: it was started by my old friend, Dude Hate. It was all in his front yard. Back in the day, just in middle school, just a bunch of young kids hitting each other with stuff, trying to put on a show for the neighborhood. It's ridiculous, but
that's funny. You two doing that. What are some of your favorite matches you've had, man? Who have you really clicked with that you've enjoyed your time with?
Honestly, Alex Todd. Alex Todd is one of my favorite people to have wrestling matches with. I also love wrestling Dude Hate because, like, again, we've known each other since we were 12 years old, wrestling in the front yard. So it just clicks. Just clicks really easily. I also loved wrestling the Frat Pack. That was a fun match. Any big names that I've wrestled? Not particularly. I've never been like in a match with like big draws. I mostly stick to the mid card. I haven't really gotten my shot at the main yet. If talent is brought in, it's not to work me.
What are some of your favorite locker rooms and promotions?
Well, ICW was my favorite of all time because honestly, that was home. That was my first start, and they were just great people. Honestly, I've also loved all my time with Real Pro. Every time I step in there, everybody's just really fun and just very open to anything, and we all just click. It honestly feels like a brotherhood when we all come together. And ARW has also been really well. It's mostly because I knew most of the guys there, so yeah.
Very good. What are some matches that you haven't had yet that you're really looking forward to, or dream matches like locally? Like who have you not had a shot with? You're like, oh, I could do something special with them.
I've always been on shows with Romeo. I've never really had a match with him. I would love to. I've had matches with ERA. I think that was actually one of my favorite matches. Me and him versus for the Pure X Crown Championship back in ICW back in, I want to say 2018. And I would love another shot at him. And man, honestly, I'd love to work anybody. All my matches are dream matches because I'm living the dream. Anytime I step in the ring, I'm living the dream. So,
where do you see yourself in about 5 years, man? What are you looking to do and accomplish? Hopefully, it's wrestling's opened up.
Hopefully wrestling opens up later this year. Well, I'm working on a lot of stuff right now with Gabriel Black and Aaron Agony. We're trying to do a faction, and we're trying to take it to any big promotion that we can, so we can get really good footage and get noticed. And then hopefully, when wrestling picks back up, a lot of our friends have recently gotten tryouts in AEW, and we hope to be along there with them. And I definitely still see myself doing like my fun cosplay wrestling shows like FSCW. That's always a trip, honestly.
Gabriel Black is still wrestling?
Gabriel Black is trying to get back into it this year. Yeah, he's still been training, and he's actually looking pretty good, man. Honestly, and then me, him, and Agony are just clicking spectacularly together. Like the ideas that we have, if we get our shot to, we're gonna turn some heads. Honestly, I'm really excited about it.
That sounds like, on paper, that sounds like a very interesting trio. So I can dig it. What do you say to someone that comes to you looking for advice that they're just starting out in pro wrestling? What kind of advice would you give someone?
Just always pay attention. Always pay attention. Always listen to the man who has more time in the ring than you, because you'll learn a lot. That's a factor that Rusty always told me about, and I always took into consideration. Just listen, do as you're told, and do it correctly. And whatever you are gonna do, make sure that you're good at it. Don't try something new that you've never tried before that you might fuck up on and you'll make look like trash. Just whatever you do well, make it even better. That's why you'll see me hit the same move every single match, because it's pretty and it works.
If it works, it works. Stick to it. Absolutely. Exactly. One of the most important questions on the show is always, have you seen any good movies lately?
Always watching good movies. I'm always watching a lot of good horror.
Oh, tell me. It's October. I've been binging some stuff I haven't seen.
Well, I literally just finished watching Trick or Treat, like I think a couple days ago.
Not for the first time.
No. I rewatched it for like 16th time, but that's always one of my favorite classic Halloween movies to go back to. Like Sam is just such a great character. And then I actually, for the very first time, I watched the whole like old school Universal Monsters collection. So like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, like the old 1930s ones. Spectacular. Go back to it, because honestly, you'll see some shit that you never thought you'd see from a film from 1930s. Like the special effects were actually great. Like thinking back, like this is the 30s and they completely made an Invisible Man look really invisible. It's fantastic.
Have you seen this year's Invisible Man?
I hate it so much. I hated it. I don't know. So many people were drawn into it, and they're like, "Oh, it's so good. It's so good." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's shitty. It's kind of shitty. Like the premise of it's like, I get it. It's more of a psychological thriller.
I love the premise.
I don't know, man. Like,
this show's over. That was Julian Kelevra now.
It just seemed preachy to me, Like everybody's doing the same thing. Like, I'm all for women empowerment, but like some women are very strong, and they made her look very weak. Like she wasn't dealing with her post-traumatic stress disorder in the correct way. I don't know. It felt flat.
Well, you read more into it than I did. I just thought it was a fun like. But
no, yeah. If I wasn't reading into the movie, yeah, it's a fun watch. Don't get me wrong.
I like the twist they had.
Well, it's a semi-fun watch because honestly, the star of the film, I forget her name, but like she looks like a foot to me. She didn't draw me in. She looks like a foot.
I think her name's Elizabeth Moss, and she was about to be the next guest on the show, but not anymore.
Definitely not. Not while I'm around. Shoot her down, let me tell you.
Oh man, you brought such a whimper to the show, man. We're doing so good. What else have you seen? Let's end on a high note.
What else have I seen recently? Uh, I don't know, man. I've mainly been sticking to like video games and stuff rather than movies. I'll watch movies till I go to sleep with my girlfriend. You know, when it's bedtime, and
Is it still the girl I know?
yeah, still
I
around
said
bunk.
hi.
She can hear you.
Is she there?
She's off in the other room, but she can definitely hear the conversation.
Oh, okay. Hi.
She
All
says
right.
hi back.
And any plugs anywhere anyone can reach you, whether it's for bookings, you got any merch, social media,
Um,
fans only, whatever you got.
I do not have any merch. Sadly, no fans only, ladies. Next time. But if you want to reach me, you can hit me up on Instagram at the Wrestling Kelevra, or through Facebook. Search up Darian Vishat. That's the kayfabe name.
Dropping shoot names on here. All right.
Yeah. Hit me up anytime. Merch is coming soon. Merch for my project with Gabriel Black and Agony are definitely coming up. And we have great
What kind of merch you got? Or
well, shirts, hats, pins, because we're doing a very punk like biker jacket vest kind of thing going on. So of course we're gonna have our all different kinds of patches and insignias and like inside jokes between us, and those will be available if you want to, be on the inside joke with us. Having your own nice little patch vest, go for it.
I was just saying, make sure you get some t-shirts in big boy sizes. I'll get a t-shirt from you.
Oh, of course, of course.
Don't try to sell me a medium.
You can definitely fit into a medium. I hear you've been working out a lot lately.
Yeah, well, not a medium, not that much.
Not yet.
Not since the first grade, maybe. Probably not even then. Any parting words, Julian or Darian?
Any
Since we're
important
dropping the shoot names.
any important words?
No parting words.
Parting words. I love you all. I love all the fans. I hope to get out there soon, see them soon, interact with them soon. Hopefully ruin their day if I'm a heel. If I'm a face, hopefully brighten your day. And follow your dreams, guys. I know I am. And honestly, I couldn't be happier.
That was such a good comeback from the horrible review of Invisible Man. That was a good
Don't
way.
want to face movie.
Well, for my cat Avery here, who's dropping in. For Julian Kelevra, this is Jordan Purse Owens. Thanks for checking out. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, ding, ding, ding. Here on Spotify, YouTube, all that jazz. And as always, you know what to do. Keep it kayfabe. Good night.